Konnichiwa, welcome to the Martial Maze. I am without my partner in crime, Barakulad Shidoshi. However, we do have a special guest, and yes, it's he's like we could just say he's like a co-host at a host at a host. I don't even know how to say it because he's been on so many different times. Yes, and you know him from the Underground Alliance Marital Science Research Association. I'm talking about none other than Randy Haskins Sensei, author of Insight 101, The Way of Big Power, baby. That's one hell of a book. That's why I was plugging. Konnichiwa, sir. How you doing? Finally got you on. We had internet issues.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right.
How's everything going?
Yeah, it's a day. A lot happening, a lot of things, in my real life, making that big jump to another part of America, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we're still based in Massachusetts, but I'll be living officially part-time in South Carolina, I guess, or actually full-time, part-time. I don't know how you want to say it, but, because I'm always at Massachusetts for a week a month, so there's that. But majority of my time will be in South Carolina. Yeah, so you recently posted something, and I'm gonna try to articulate it. But actually, you know what? You'd be better off articulating it, because I know if I start doing it, you'll start giving me that gas face look of saying that, brother, you just ain't getting it done. So, describe it to the folks, because I mean, some folks may be able to see it. I know I am gonna use it for the cover art, for this particular episode, so that folks can have something to reference. But this was based off of you had posted this, and when I saw it online, it speaks to something you and I have spoken about many a time, and it's kind of in line of our last episode, the one we dropped last weat. So, kind of, you want to give folks a little inkling or a mind shot to what they'd be seeing.
Yeah, well, it was just a picture of someone performing a rising block, blocking a punch, a straight on punch coming towards their face, and throwing a punch themselves back at the person. Uh, just a basic picture, basic rendition of the application that the majority of karate world presents as a valid technique, but it really doesn't make sense. If you look at the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't make sense. But people perpetuate that over and over again within the martial landscape, and a lot of things like that, which it's just annoying to me.
Well, yeah, you would think that in some ways it kind of goes against that first, because I think the strike is to it looks like it's supposed to be to the solar plex, and but it doesn't follow the first rule, the first action or combinations of, should be able to neutralize the perceived threat.
Well, let's go with the basic rule. The first action or combination of action you execute should have the ability and or probability of neutralizing the opponent's ability to continue to fight or immobilize the opponent entirely.
Hmm.
If we look at it that way and somebody throws a punch at someone, first of all, straight line punch as depicted in that picture, straight line punch, and you come up with a rising block to meet it, uh, first of all, it really goes against the concept of, we all know why we have brake lights on a car. We all recognize that, uh, because brake lights on a car allow a visual change to the person directly behind you to indicate that you are stopping, which
Hmm.
triggers a response from the person behind them. They, in turn, stop because of the positioning of the two cars. If the person in front didn't have brake lights and decided to stop, the person behind them would not be able to determine the fact that they're stopping fast enough to stop successfully, and would end up hitting them because the car in front would gradually get bigger at a slow pace, not detectable to the eye, and the person would hit the person. So if a punch is coming straight on at your face without brake lights on it to let you know to raise your arm
Hmm.
with nice speed, you're going to get hit. It just doesn't make sense that you throw a rising block to intercept that punch, and then you throw a punch, or you throw a punch at the same. Whatever people like to say, well, we throw a punch at the same time that we block, and no, it doesn't. It just doesn't make sense. Doesn't
Okay.
make sense at all.
Yeah. No, 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 no. I hear what you're saying. I mean,
Um,
it goes back to the concept of what we perceive are blocks may not actually be blocks. Um, and I think that
yeah,
sometimes that
yeah,
information gets
exactly.
lost.
Yeah. Um, Besides the fact that a rising block doesn't neutralize somebody's, the way most people apply that technique. Like I said, the punch comes in, they throw a rising block, and they return a punch. It that the first action, the rising block itself, does not neutralize somebody's ability to continue to fight. It
Mm.
it just doesn't. That action is not going to do it. There's no, that action is not weaponized the way that is depicted most of the time in karate training. It's not weaponized. Every action, every motion should be weaponized.
Yes.
And if
Oh,
it's not, there's a problem.
well, I mean, because it kind of
It
circles
goes
back.
against self protection.
Well, yeah, or just any form of combatives.
Go
Period.
ahead.
Yeah, no, no. This is like I said. That's why I kind of wanted to do this episode. Is it ties into last week's episode in such a way where it's one of my pet peeves. I think that the way martial arts is depicted today, I really do. I think that the byproducts of studying martial arts have now overshadowed, or that's what people perceive to be martial arts. Well, I'm more confident. I'm better disciplined, and I've good fitness. You know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. And they take that as the main parts of the study of the martial sciences, as the main catch-all, and they miss the whole combatives part, and that becomes the not. I would love to say secondary, but that would be doing it more justice. No, it's just far removed to the point where they just really don't care if you have any that you even have good combative knowledge or good martial stratagems. They don't care about that. It's oh, I can now walk and chew bubble gum at the same time
Yeah.
and stuff. So it's been kind of driving me crazy lately. And it's really because well, in the end of the day, I'd love. I'm Okinawan stylist, originally and stuff like that. But let me rephrase. That's kind of where my mainstay in my martial journey began and stuff. My adult life anyway. I was a kid. It was Kaji
Mhm.
Kempo and then the Taekwondo and all that other good stuff. But I always say I took my study of the martial arts more serious when I was old enough to really realize what I was doing, what I was trying to do. You know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. So, in my case, for those that don't know, I just
Mhm.
really wanted to be a good fighter,
Yeah.
like outside of in the street. That's what I wanted. I studied martial arts to be a good fighter out in the street, not so much as to. I don't know if that makes me a monster. I don't know what to say, but I do come from a military family, and it made sense. You know what I'm saying, and with to have that mindset, and also, if you forget, I'm also Afro Latino, or if you saw me in the street, you see me as a black guy, and still to this day, we're an endangered species, so there's that too.
Yeah. I too. My main purpose with studying was to learn how to address violence. I don't really subscribe to the word fight, because when you fight something, you fail at it. You know what I'm saying? If you
Hmm.
had to pay your mortgage and you were short on your mortgage and you fought that, you'd lose your house. But if you address it, you're gonna save your house. You see what I'm saying?
Oh
I
yeah.
don't I don't believe in fighting something. I believe in addressing it. Um, so that whole fighting term, I'm not, you know, and the way that people present these blocks and punches promotes a war of attrition.
Hmm.
It doesn't promote intelligent application of use of these tools that we develop throughout the years. Um, the technique itself, practicing the technique, is just learning about you and how to express your max power potential or energy and all this stuff. How to load and express that energy and potential. The process of achieving the use of those tools successfully is something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, rising block, the distance thing doesn't, the way it's presented doesn't take into account reality,
Mm-hmm.
right? If we look at fighting itself, the act of fighting, the act of addressing violence, somebody tries to punch you, right, in the street, very few times, let's say percentage wise, 90, 95% of the time, punches are unsuccessful.
Mm-hmm.
You might get the 5% of the time where a sucker punch knocks somebody out and then somebody gets their head stomped on after they're knocked out. The majority of the time, startle response happens and the person who was about to get punched smothers the punch and it becomes a standing grappling match, a tussling match. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So if the act of getting punched successfully is this much of a real life altercation, why is the act of blocking this much of karate training?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense.
No,
It,
no, it
it
doesn't.
just doesn't make sense. Um, and Okinawan karate was designed for self protection, self defense purposes.
Yes. Yes, it
And they
was.
understood realities of fighting. That's why they do a lot of joint stuff and throws and all this other stuff. Those blocks, those motions that people believe to be blocks, are actually addressing the the clinch, the habitual act of physical violence, which we call a clinch, which is habitual act of physical violence number four, which is a bear hug or headlock, some type of tie up, where 70% of your body's tied up to your opponent's body.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes.
punching and striking and thrusting and kicking is the beginner phase of karate training. It's very generic, very basic, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some type of uh, redirects or shielding that you do, but it's not all out blocking. You know, these blocking motions that just don't make sense. You know, it's
Yeah.
misinterpretation,
Well,
really.
I also think it's not
You
just
know, a
misinterpretation.
fallacy.
Yeah, it's also you got folks that are, for lack of a better term, that are very conservative, in the martial community, want to preserve this tradition that wasn't meant to not evolve. Like combatives has evolved. I know the human body hasn't changed and stuff like that, and since the time of war, but the way we address the certain things has changed. I mean, we went from, I mean, you could say from, depending on how you want to look at it, we went from unarmed. Excuse me. We had a degree of arms, but the way we use those arms have changed. I mean, now we have machine pistols. You know what I'm saying? Where they didn't have those back then. They didn't have even the way we condition and train ourselves is different. I liken this to sports a lot. When you look at football when it was created, the original way they did it, or even basketball for some, right? The basketball they had and the way basketball players played, the way they were conditioned to play. Now compare those players to players now. They wouldn't be able to hold a candle to a player now. I mean, sports evolved, the game has evolved, and I say that I feel like that some folk in the martial community still get caught up in this is the way it was done when it was created, and we're going to keep it this way. We're only going to train this way. Where, yes, if you understand the principles and the concepts, I go, okay, all right, I might entertain that. But a lot of times, what I found is those folks typically don't understand the information to begin with. So they're just really just recycling a process over and over again because that's the way they learned it. That's the way their sensei learned it, and without actually thinking about the information. I think you posted something. Shit. Because I have my This is what's great about when I'm at home is I have the two monitors going at the same time, and I think you posted something about this, where you were saying, hold up, that kind of covers what I'm trying to get at. It was in one of your. Oh man, it may take me like 20 million years to find it though, because you post a lot of stuff, man. But it kind of covers what I'm talking about right now. It had to do with the way folks the way folks are looking at the martial arts now.
Konnichiwa. I'm Israel Lopez, sensei of the martial maze. Right now, you might be asking yourself, what is the martial maze? Well, I'm here to tell you. The Martial Maze is a martial arts podcast that deals with the complexities and pitfalls that one encounters when navigating the field of study that is martial arts. These discussions are from the points of view of actual martial artists, and we cover it all, with the occasional special guest, who, of course, are masters in their fields of study. From the president of the United States Judo Association to karate and kung fu royalty. Myself and Barakulat Shidoshi have over 40 plus years of martial experience. So please join us as we make our way through the martial maze. New episodes drop weekly, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
Well, let me say this while you look for that. Here's the thing. There's basic principles that, first of all, the martial arts are designed to be simple. People sell complications. They say, well, this is advanced stuff. And there's no such thing as advanced technique, only advanced mentality behind the technique. That comes through experience. But it's designed to be simple. When you're standing stationary and somebody's throwing 29 punches at you and you're deflecting all these punches, unrealistic, totally unrealistic. How many demonstrations do you see where somebody's standing stationary, somebody throws 9 punches and they deflect all the punches, then they reach out and joint lock the person? All this ridiculous bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's not a martial strategy to deflect 29 punches. A martial strategy is not to block someone's punch. It's to block their ability to punch.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the simplest things you can do to anyone. Doesn't matter, skilled or not. To block someone's punch takes a lot of, I don't know, skill or what. To block somebody's ability to punch takes no skill whatsoever. Again, martial arts is designed to be simple. Anybody can do it, and it doesn't take a lot of training to block someone's ability to punch. It takes a lot of training and experience to block a bunch of punches, which is physically impossible anyway. You're never going to stand there and block 29 punches, 17 punches, 4 punches, like people do doing these demonstrations, block 4 punches and then go into some outlandish, elaborate technique that's just ridiculous. Doesn't work that way. So why do people demonstrate that on a constant basis? And people, and the worst thing about it is people will co-sign it as if it's some real shit. It's ridiculous. Experienced people with a lot of rank and other people, they co-sign that shit, which validates it that much more in people's eyes. But it's not a valid thing. Anybody can stop somebody's ability to punch, but you can't block people's punches. It's kind of hard to do that. You might be able to do one, but
I mean, it lends itself to
let Mayweather come at you.
Well, no, but you don't even need a Mayweather. I mean, how many blocks do you see in a street fight? Like, I mean, that's something.
None.
Actually, yeah, exactly. So one of the guys I trained with in Worcester, he brought that up. I'm like, yes, how many blocks do you see in a street fight? Or how many blocks do you see in MMA?
None.
I try not to use MMA because it's a sport, and this, that, and the third. But I say, so I always circle it back to how many blocks have you seen in a street fight? Like, how many times were you blocking in a street fight?
Even against people, even between people who are trained in a street fight, somebody who's trained, they don't block nothing. It's just ridiculous. So why do people keep perpetuating this bullshit? And then great masters are out there. Oh, it's so annoying. So annoying. But I'm the asshole for pointing this stuff out constantly to people.
Oh yeah, well yeah, you know you're
So
hated.
annoying.
No, I wouldn't say you're hated. I would
Yeah.
tell you that a lot of times it's you're forcing again you're going against the grain, and a lot of folk have gone against the grain. And here's the thing: I think you and I have talked about this in the past, where even what you said made 100% sense. You broke it down. You watched the person default exactly back to the way to as if the conversation was never had, as if and you have a saying that I've recently adopted: I could either articulate this or I can show it to you. You decide how you want to learn the lesson. Now if somebody wants to take that as
Brings
I'm
you physically.
challenging them,
Yep. You
yeah,
decide.
yeah, exactly. It's not really a challenge so much as look, man. But you even had me with I was over your house. For listeners out there, I was over his house, and we had just dropped the Diane Wallander episode, and somebody had commented that Sankyu doesn't work. That it's impossible. And then you challenged me that day at the house, and you said, "Well, have you thought about how to get there?" And I had never thought about it before. I used it in real life, and I said, "Well, the person," and he was like, "Well, he grabbed you like that," and I said, "Yeah," and it just was there, and it had me. But then you ended up showing me how to catch it from a clinch, and it blew my mind. And then you went into look, and this is how I hit you uncontestedly, and and I know that there are folks that like what uncontested. And you made a believer out of me that day too, because I was like uncontested. Yeah, there it was though, uncontested. But it it it's stuff like that where if you claim to be a martial scientist or one that really wants to really get better at the knowledge that's been handed to us and have a better understanding of what you can and can't do, or just because we all have our own way of fighting. Like I have what works for me. You know what I'm saying? But then I'm also out there teaching folks too. And unless you're built exactly like me, you know what I'm saying? I have to be able to break this information down and break the principles down so it fits you. It's the same reason things that we learn in school. You know what I'm saying? Hey, that's why the way I do my penmanship is different than the way you do yours. We're all individuals, but we all still learn from the same principles and stuff like that. But sir, I'm sorry, I get to be.
Here's
Go ahead. Go ahead.
here's the thing. So the martial arts itself, right? Expression of it, physical expression is individualized. That's fine.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. But what people need to understand is that your physical expression should be a physical manifestation of your understanding.
Hmm.
That's where the universalness comes in, is the understanding. Everybody's going to be different because of their physical makeup and this and that physically. But understanding is where the commonalities come about. Commonality should tell you, out of intelligence, stop trying to block punches and block their ability to punch. Period. Now, how you achieve that physical feat is going to be determined by you and your physical makeup and your confidence and this and that. You see what I'm saying? So your
Hmm.
physicalness will change to achieve that basic goal, but the goal is the goal. Stop blocking punches because that's unrealistic. And when you do your little demonstrations, blocking 17 punches and then joint locking them and do, come on, not impressive. It's ridiculous.
Well, I found the
But if you
comment.
block their ability to punch,
Well, I did find the comment,
mhm.
and it says, please understand. So this is something you wrote, and it resonated with me because it goes into just what we're talking about right now. It says, please understand, if you do take or took karate, it in no way, shape, or form is the equivalent to the act of studying karate. And I feel like there are a lot of folks that they're going to hear this statement, hear what you wrote, and not really understand. In fact, they might just get in their feelings about it. And I find that happens more often than not. Folk get in their feelings without actually thinking about what you're really saying. And again, I'm
Mhm.
circling back because most of the truths we cling to are based upon our perceptions and our learned experiences. And the fact that you said is you have you ever thought about how do you get to Sankyu? and like that. How can you make some? And now, meanwhile, I do that all the time in judo, right? I'm like, well, if I want to set this throw up, my harai gosh, I got 5 million different things I can. Well, not 5 million, but you know what I'm saying. The point I'm getting at is I got plenty of ways to get you to either grab me or put you in the position for me to get that throw every time, anytime. In fact, I start giggling at you because I know I have it. You know what I'm saying? And never really thought about that with anything else. And it had me go back to open up the portfolio again and go, ooh, wait a minute. How do I get this here? I mean, I've done this with this, but now how do I utilize that information? And again, it was a good eye-opening moment. And then I end up coming across this particular quote that you had put down, and it just kind of punctuated it all. It kind of happened all at the same time. It was very serendipitous. You know what I'm saying? So. And yes, I just said serendipitous.
Yeah. Hey. Listen, many people practice how to throw a punch, how to do this. A lot of people punch for a living. Very few people understand how to punch.
Mm-hmm.
Very few people understand how to transition, how to just many different things about. And then when somebody comes along that has that information and can exploit it, like Ben Whitaker or like Vasyl Lomachenko or like Mayweather's defense, and just all these different things, they stand out above the rest. You know what I'm saying? There's many people, like I said, a boxer challenged me. This boxer, 300-pound boxer, 6 foot, whatever, huge. I told him, listen, you punch for a living. I understand how to punch. There's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
All right. There is a major difference. I've never wrapped my hands and or wrists, so I know how to align my body properly so I don't break my hands when I punch.
Mm-hmm.
How many boxers can say that? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Boxers break their hands all the time punching, because when you wrap your hands, you put them in a bad position.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I bounced my entire life since I was 19 years old, pretty much. And until recently, I got hit by a couple of girls in the bar, which was weird, but I've never been hit in a bar.
Well, no, that's I was
I've
about
been
to
in
say
a lot of altercations in bars.
that's gonna happen. I still got the scar when they took a stiletto in the back of the head.
Again, since I was 19, and haven't been hit until recently. You understand? And I'm 54 now. And I worked 22 years in the jail and never, ever got touched. And my coworkers have got retired medically, getting their asses kicked. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that people do that are just unrealistic. And when I used to teach academies, the first day of defensive tactics, I'd ask the recruits, all right, who here is a martial background? They'd raise their hand. I go around the room and ask them, well, what? And they, each one tell me what they do. I say, okay, what you do does not apply to this job. As a matter of fact, they didn't even really teach you the hows and whys. They showed you some techniques that don't apply because you don't understand. I'm going to show you how.
Yeah.
There's so much. So again, getting back to the original thing, all these stuff that people are doing that just doesn't make sense. That's why I posted that picture with the no symbol of the red circle with the line through it, saying stop doing this. It's ridiculous, and stop teaching people this shit as if it's real. I'll tell you another thing. I belong to this group called Open Sparring Group, as you know. And one day I was fighting this person, and then they started talking about how well, they don't really train for self-protection. They train to, get in shape and all this other stuff. I said, oh, interesting. Okay. Well, let me ask you this. In your dojo, do you actually teach or run self-defense seminars? Oh, yeah, we do that all the time. Yeah, I teach those. I said, okay. Well, before you, do you throw out the disclaimer that you don't train for self-protection, self-defense purposes? Oh, no. Oh, I see what you did there. Exactly. So you train for fitness, you train for this. So you're teaching them a bunch of shit that doesn't apply
Well,
to
exactly. Well,
self-defense because you don't train for self-defense.
and at that point, are you a martial
It's
artist?
just this.
Again, this is why I said it goes back. Barack and I we talk about this where I get hot headed about it because and people get in their feelings when I bring it up. But again, why? Why are you studying? If you came to my dojo and said that, hey, I mean, actually, I've done this to somebody I fairly recently. Came in and said, hey, man, I'm just looking to get fit, this, that, and the third. And I said, great, the YMCA is down the road. Tell him Izzy sent you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, 'cause, no, I get you fighting fit. Yeah, that's a byproduct. You know what I'm saying? But you're fit for fighting. You're fit for doing what we do. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. But if you're looking to get in shape and learn how to eat right and you want to have this if you want to what's the word I'm looking for? If you want to do everything but learn combatives and or just even I'll do even one better. I'll just say even my approach to the way I teach judo as a martial art and a sport second. So everything you learn in our school has a street. It's really designed for the street, and we dumb it down for a contest. Period. Full stop. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really hard sometimes to tell a guy hey, you want to flip over to make sure you're in the prone position because you don't want to land on your back. If you do get thrown. That I think those are the only times where it lends itself more to the sport and it kind of defaults away from the main objective is to make sure that you understand and have you can utilize this information in the real world. You know what I'm saying? But it's combatives. It still has the combative mindset, like it's predicated around combatives. It annoys the shit out of me when people to pull out the combative part. Then you're not teaching martial arts because the martial arts is military combatives. It's not my opinion. That is what it is.
And let me say this too, right? Not that, and I'm all for, being a good person. You understand? Mm-hmm. But that has nothing to do with the martial sciences or the martial arts, right? One has nothing to do with the other. Mm-hmm. A lot of martial arts masters back in 16th century, 15th century, 17th century, all that shit were opium addicts and womanizers.
Oh,
you understand?
I mean, we don't martial artists that way.
One has nothing to do with the other.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You understand? So be a better person doesn't have anything to do with the martial arts. I'm not saying you shouldn't be a good person in society. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is one has nothing to do with the other. So don't take the martial arts to become a better person. Take the martial arts to understand how to address violence and be a better person just in your life.
Yes.
You understand? So all those people yelling about, we as instructors need to,
Well, those are commercialized talking points in order to get people to spend their money and stuff like that. That's because even when we started,
I as an instructor refused. I as an instructor refuse to train someone who's an asshole, who has ill intentions behind learning what I have to offer.
Hello, this is Israel Lopez, sensei of the Martial Maze. If you're a fan of our podcast or our YouTube channel, The Martial Maze Presents Modern Combatives, did you know that you could support future episodes on both platforms by becoming a subscriber to our Patreon? Membership entitles you to exclusive Martial Maze content not shared on either the podcast or our YouTube channel, The Martial Maze Presents Modern Combatives, as well as limited edition only available to our Patreon subscribers merchandise. That's exclusive stuff, y'all. Where there are 3 different tiers to choose from, bronze, silver, or gold memberships, gold being the very best. No matter what tier, and to show our appreciation for you, the subscriber, and to celebrate our 4th season of the Martial Maze podcast, we are giving away to one lucky subscriber every month free Martial Maze merchandise. That merchandise is anything that we sell on our Marshall Mays page. That's www.marshallmays.com. A new winner will be chosen each month through the duration of 2024. That's our way of sincerely saying thank you. But please keep in mind, you can't win if you're not a subscriber. That's the Marshall Mays at Patreon. And once again, thank you for becoming a subscriber, and thank you for listening.
That's my contribution. You understand? And I try to live my life in such a way, true Zen, the way Kudo Sensei would present Zen. And I try to live my life in such a way where I'm not hurting someone in the process of me living my life. Period. You understand?
Oh, yeah,
I live my life to the fullest in a way where I am content with everything I'm doing, and I'm not hurting someone else in order to live a better life you understand? So, but it has nothing to do with my art. My art is designed to keep me safe, and it has on many different occasions kept me safe. So one has nothing to do with the other. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, no,
just
no,
to address all that.
Oh yeah,
shit.
And I agree. I'm like, it's again, folks getting their feelings when I bring it up, but it's the truth of it. You know, I mean, I get why when they had the commercialized school, you'd give the byproduct out there. You know, you want, but again, I have a friend whose son takes Taekwondo. And the one thing I did get from the guy who was teaching Taekwondo that I learned from, again, like his rank wasn't legitimate. However, we could fight. I could fight. You know, like I really could fight. That, I mean, ultimately, when I left his school, I could fight. I could handle my business in the street. And that because, again, that was his mindset. This stuff needed to work. You know what I'm saying? It was the context in which I was being taught this stuff or being given this information. Now, hell, I didn't understand a lot of it. I just knew the combinations worked. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. It wasn't until I got with Kenny where Kenny was more about making sure you understood the information and so that you can apply it to anything. And that's great. But I feel like I was telling him with his son, I said, listen, understand, if you're kicking to the highest extreme, this high in the air, listen, man, you ain't kicking horses, you know, people off horseback. That's, you know, or all that, whatever that stuff comes from, you know. The point I was making is look, you stretch high so that you go center mass. And I said at home, he should, when he's kicking the bag, he should be forcing the bag away, or, you know, making sure that if he's hitting the bag and bouncing back in the other direction, then he's not hitting with force and his power's not going to where it's supposed to be. But I said 5 minutes a day, you know, you work with your son, make sure he's hitting the mitts and make sure he's doing what he needs to do. And because again, it's still military combatives, it's military strategy, it's combatives, period. It's fighting, ladies and gentlemen. If one of them folks that, well, I don't want my child to learn that kind of violence, I don't want that, then your son or daughter should not be in martial arts. Then it's one of them things. It's like either you join the military or you don't join the military. No one makes you join the military. There hasn't been a draft since Nam. You know what I'm saying? So no one's making you do this. You're choosing to put your child or choosing to put yourself in into combatives. So we'll learn it. It's like learning it's weird because when you make the analogy to something like boxing, everybody gets it right away. Well, either you learn how to fight in boxing or you don't learn how to fight in boxing. You leave. You realize that boxing's not for you. And I'm like, well, why isn't that the same with martial arts, karate? I said, did they miss that one? Did that just fall off by the wayside? What happened?
It's just, there's so many things that are just skewed in people's mindset when it comes to the martial sciences. Even people who claim to be masters of it. It's so annoying. Every time I see something, I just shake my head. And a lot of people who claim to know about martial arts make the most ridiculous statements about it. You know?
Yeah.
And I just shake my head. It's ridiculous.
It almost feels like they're martial grievances. But I will say that though, it's if you're saying that we don't teach combatives, but that's crazy. Teaching combatives, saying, well, I don't teach combatives or any of that kind of stuff, but I run a self-protection,
Well,
self-defense
no, she
program.
said
I don't, what?
it was a female. It was a female, a black belt, and she was saying, well, I don't train because the subject came up. I said, who here has been in an altercation where you didn't know if you were going to make it home that day?
Oof.
A couple of people raised their hand. I knew they were lying, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, come on. They just didn't want to be embarrassed, you know? So I said, well, once that happens, your art, your expression of your art will change forever.
Yeah.
I said, until that happens, you'll continue to do what you do. You'll continue to do what you do the way you do it. And then she had said that she doesn't train for self-defense. She trains to stay in shape and all this other stuff. I said, okay. Well, let me ask you this. And I knew what the answer was going to be because they run a school. So of course I knew what the answer was going to be. That's why I asked it so confidently. I said, well, do you run self-defense seminars out of your school? Well, yes, of course. Okay. And I didn't understand how she didn't or couldn't right there make the correlation of where I was going with this.
Okay.
I said, so if you do run self-defense seminars out of your school, do you first start off the course with saying that you don't train for self-defense? And she was like, oh, I see what you did there. No, exactly. So why would you tell me you don't train for self-defense, but you run self-defense courses? It doesn't make sense. So what's your purpose for training?
Yeah.
It doesn't, it just, nothing made sense in that whole scenario. And hopefully that changed her mindset and she
What's
started delving in. But a lot of people do things that just don't really translate well to self-defense.
I don't realistically.
And let's clear this up.
Okay, go ahead.
Self-protection is how you set up your life in such a way where violence misses you.
Mm-hmm.
Self-defense is what you have to engage in if you fail at self-protection.
Yes.
Period.
Then we did a whole episode on that, ladies and gentlemen. Especially if it's your first time listening to the Marshall Maze, there was a whole episode we did on that, the difference between self-protection and self-defense. My pet peeve with that is it lends itself. I don't think instructors understand that people are coming to you as an authority. It's like when you go to the doctors. The doctors, you tell the doctor, and the doctor bases upon, his or hers degrees and what they learned and through their practical, practice. And they say, hey, this is what you may need, or that's what you may need. And you take their advice, right? And if they prescribe medication to you, because you got a sickness or virus or whatever, you take the medication. Now, some people second guess it or go and see another doctor. But the point is that you're going to somebody with an authority that knows what this is, and you're going to base your life decisions based upon that authority. Well, I don't think martial arts instructors really truly understand that you may be giving someone a false sense of security to the point where it may be detrimental to their health to listen to you. To listen to that, especially if, and I get it. Some folks play the law of averages. Like I think you've said it before too. I think I originally it was you who said it, and then I've heard it from other folks. The average male after 18, 19 years old can spend the rest of his life avoiding fights and never really have to worry about getting into a physical altercation. A female, that average is a lot lower. Most of that tends to be domestic statistics. And I know you can skew the statistic to make it say anything you want. But the point I'm making is a lot of the women who take these courses and classes take them to learn the best practices. And then the things that even then, a lot of times they don't even get armed with a lot of best practices. They get armed with a lot of the physical stuff that's very perishable. You know what I'm saying? And meaning for listeners out there that don't understand when I say with the term, when I'm saying perishable, meaning if you're not practicing this stuff all the time, when you need it, it won't work. It's the same thing with firearm safety. I'm a huge advocate of firearms and firearm safety. I will tell you that if you get a firearm and the only time you practice with that firearm is at the range, then when shit comes to Sinola, it may fail you. You know what I'm saying? You should be practicing cutting a pie around your house. Like, it's just all the same things that we do in any martial system. A firearm is just that. It's an extension of that, and it finds its place there. So you should practice around your house anyway. That's a little segue off the main topic. The point is instructors giving people false sense of security. Yeah, your paycheck is getting fat. But folks are depending on you. Like, they depend on our expertise in our chosen fields of study, that we're going to give them the best knowledge. And when we don't, or when we fail to do this, and this is another reason I really want to do this episode with you, Haskins Sensei, was because you get people who leave. They leave an art, and they end up with a bad taste in their mouth, and they say, I studied karate for X amount of years, and now I'm doing MMA classes, and I'm more effective doing the MMA classes now. And I'm thinking about that, or even the last week's episode where the person was talking about the color belts back in the day. Now, I remember this as a green belt. The green belts were fire back in the day. You weren't walking into a school and just beating up a green belt back in the day. But now. You look at most karate schools, and it's the same thing with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And the construct of going into a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, if you walk in off the street, you're not going to dust the blue belt. You might think you can, but it's not going to go the way you want it to go. Now, I'm not going to move the goalposts and say something like, but in a street fight, I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is that bothered me, and that's why I did the episode last week, was because when I was studying karate, or Okinawa back then, it was a green belt, which I always say equates to the equivalent of a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu back then anyway. And the standard has dropped off. And then I say, well, why? How did the standard drop off? Then you look at people. You look at instructors. You look at people who just want to get paid. It was all about the business model. I get those. I don't know about you because you run a school, but I run. I still my spot is air quotations still commercial. Because it is open to the public. Anybody can find it. This, that, and the third. It's not exactly storefront, but it is. And I always get, I think through the algorithms on Facebook and stuff like that, I'll get hey, do you want to make more money in your martial arts school? Do you want student retention and and all this other good stuff? And a lot of times you look at these are business people. They don't care if people get the knowledge or not, if they're teaching anything knowledgeable. They just, hey, man, if you do this, if you keep the kids busy, if you keep the parents happy, they'll keep paying for classes. Doesn't matter if they know anything. Doesn't matter if they win or lose, because, we're teaching that we've changed what was supposed to be combatives in martial stratagem to something like well, it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. Now, we all know, like with swimming, I love that analogy, like with swimming, if you can't swim and you're in water, you may drown, you may die. If you can't fight and find yourself in a position where your life may depend on being able to fight or flee, you know what I'm saying? Having enough just to flee, or to know that you were just in a bad scenario, or just when to leave, you know what I'm saying? And stuff like that, then the price you were going to pay is maybe your life. Maybe a life of a loved one. It's just, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can live with that on my conscience. It's one of those kind of things.
Yeah, you're definitely right. There's all those people who say, well, I don't train to be able to. I said, then go into badminton or something you're going to get something cardio in that has absolutely nothing to do with addressing violence. You're right. It's I don't know. There's so much stuff that I just shake my head at, that people talk about within the martial sciences, and people who claim to be masters, people who hold high ranks in something, but they still make comments as if they're actually not professionals at their craft.
Well, sometimes I always wonder if that's is that just more clickbaity than anything else, or just if I
people believe
it sparks interest.
Stuff.
Oh,
people believe. Listen. I was teaching a seminar, and the high-ranking people come to my seminar, and they're whatever training, and I present something, and they go, "Wow, I never thought about that. How'd you think about that? How did?" Because I'm not an idiot, and I'm not calling people idiots. What I'm saying is this: it everything you do physically should be a physical manifestation of your understanding. The ultimate goal in a self defense situation is to not be hit, right?
Mm.
So, is it to block a punch? You're still risking being hit, or neutralizing their ability to hit you. That's how you. If you block somebody's ability to punch, you'll never get hit,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so that right there is that's common sense. So now everything me understanding that, I develop strategies in order to satisfy that thing. So if I want to neutralize their ability to hit me, then I have to develop physical strategies to achieve that thing. And within those physical strategies, I'm going to take a collection of tools or techniques that I've learned, put them together in such a way where it achieves that goal. Period.
No,
And
that
that's what
makes
I
complete
do.
sense. Yeah.
Now, yeah, now ultimately I get in a position which I call negotiation space, where I have total control over this person, and they can't do anything to me without actually damaging themselves in the process of trying to do it. And I have total access to them. I can do whatever, whether it's a kick, a punch, or whatever, continue the break or whatever it is. So you develop certain strategies, and then you have to satisfy those strategies through your physicalness and in an intelligent manner. When you block punches, you're not doing that. That doesn't
Mm.
make sense. When you try to block a punch, when somebody throws 17 punches in your demonstration and you're doing all this stuff and then doing it, doesn't make sense. Just me making you have to address the balance issue will neutralize your ability to hit me.
Yeah,
So if
well,
I just rush into you and keep running, you're going to stop punching till you stabilize yourself. You
yeah.
have to.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
And there's many
You have to
different
get out
ways
the
to
way.
do those
Something.
things.
Yeah. Yes.
Boxers prove it every time. Two boxers will be boxing. One will clinch with the other one and keep them moving around. What's the other boxer do? Stop punching.
Yeah.
He has no choice but to stop punching,
Yes. Well, like I said,
right?
the information's there. You
It's,
see it.
it's
So switching gears a little bit. So, because this actually, it's not really switching gears because we're going to end up finding ourselves right back to where we are right now. It's the Monday night quarterbacks out there who watch videos, watch the social media stuff, who don't really understand the information that's being put forth that say that will never work. Yo, can we have a conversation about the that will never works, people? Because man, listen, I get that so many times, especially when people see something that is done for self-defense, not addressing a fight, because you're 100% correct when you say a war of attrition. And if folks that don't know what that means, you need to Google and look it up. God damn it, you should know what attrition means. So, you're a grown-ass adult. You should know what attrition means. All right, but there's so many folk out in the ether that constantly they'll see something, they don't really understand the information, and they instantly jump to that will never work, that will never work, it will never work, it will never work. Can we talk about that for a second, sir?
I listen. There's nothing greater than me reading the comments on my YouTube channel on videos I put up. People always have something to say. Oh, well, that wouldn't work in the MMA ring and all this other bullshit. People always got something to say. First off, let me just say this. Everybody that has ever challenged me, I have put in the hospital.
Mm.
Not to brag, not saying, I'm just letting you know. So, because I was taught by Norikudo sensei that I should never take a challenge lightly.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody's coming to prove that what I do doesn't work. And if I can't defend my school, my symbol, then there's no reason for it to be there. Hence why that has happened. All right, with that being said, I usually ignore the comments It's comedy gold. When I read it, every once in a while I get irritated and I comment back. Um, but yes, people always, there's always going, if Bruce Lee was alive right now, and by no means am I a Bruce Lee fan, was never a Bruce Lee fan. But so when I say this, I'm just saying because a lot of people love Bruce Lee. If Bruce Lee was alive, putting out videos right now, he'd have trolls.
Oh
It
yes,
doesn't
he
matter
was.
who
He was
you
Jeet
are,
Kune
you're
Do
going to get
Wang
trolls.
Chung. Yeah, I mean, come on. He'd definitely have trolls, or he'd be doing BJJ. Wanted to.
He's definitely going. It doesn't matter who you are, you're going to get trolls. I understand that. I recognize that. And people have told me that's why they don't put videos out, or that's
Yes.
why they deleted their channel because they got. I don't mind people saying what they say. Say what you got to say. It's okay. I worked in a prison for 22 years and got through unscathed. I bounced since I was 19 years old, unscathed. I
Well, except for
What I
fairly
do
recently.
has served me well. So I no, just because I got hit, getting hit is
I'm
nothing.
messing
I
with you,
got hit
man.
by girls trying, swinging, falling,
Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is, so it really doesn't matter. My ring isn't a competition ring. My ring is the street, and I've survived well with people trying to stab me. I've been stabbed. Just different things that have happened to me. I have my art has served me well.
No, you
But
survived.
the
Yes.
comments, nothing more entertaining. Nothing more entertaining than reading that stuff. And it's usually people who have created channels on YouTube but have no videos, have nothing. They just created the channel so they can go in and comment on other people's channels. They really have no information that they're putting out or anything like that. It's just trolls.
Or they still
It
don't.
really doesn't matter.
I always say I do one better by saying a lot of times it's the comments of the folks that don't understand the difference between a fight and self-protection, self-defense. They really don't. You can tell by how they comment. That I'm like, then one
Yeah,
part I literally ended up hitting him back
yeah.
like, so when were you beating on a woman? Where you know like grabbing her by the hair? Like when did you assault a woman that way? It got crickets. Nothing else.
Let- Let's take it a step further. Let's take it a step further. Let's take it a step further for those people that say boxing is probably the best form of self-defense out there. Let's take it a step further. Okay. So people always tell you that boxing and Muay Thai, stuff like that, is probably the best self-defense arts going to use in the street. Okay. Self-defense is not just what you do, it's how you do it in such a way where it keeps you safe, not
Mm.
just from physical harm, but from litigation, from monetary strife, from incarceration, from you name it. That's self-defense and self-protection. There's self-protection and self-defense. If we look at it as a Venn diagram, self-protection and then self-defense. And then there's a space where they meet. You
Hmm.
understand? So, in the process of you having to defend yourself, you also have to think self protection in the process. So, what you do has to keep you out of jail. You understand? All
Oh
right.
yeah.
So, I know people who have gotten to fights in the street, right? Remember, I worked in the jail for 22 years. People who have gotten to fights in the street and successfully defended themselves by getting into a fist fight, punching this dude several times, and killing him from punches to the face.
Hmm.
And then they're locked up for
Now they fighting for the rest
10
of
to
their
20
lives.
years,
Yeah.
30 years, 40
Hmm.
years, 50 years. You understand? So, did they really execute good self protection skills? No, they didn't. So, self protection slash self defense isn't a physical art, it's an understanding. Self defense part of self protection and self defense is the physical aspects, but also while you're performing these techniques or executing these techniques and addressing these situations and scenarios, you also have to incorporate self-protection concepts in that and do it in such a way where you're not going to go to jail for the rest of your life. That means not killing somebody unless it's deadly force imposed against you. And there's many different so self-protection and self-defense is an understanding, not an art itself. You understand? And self-defense is understanding how to use the tools or techniques you've collected intelligently. There's so much that goes into it that a lot of people don't discuss. So when they talk about boxing is the best form of self-defense, just because you trained in boxing, you haven't studied self-defense or self-protection. I guarantee you there's not a boxing coach out there teaching self-protection concepts and use of force and all this other stuff. That's what self-protection is, understanding those things and coping skills for when you have to actually defend yourself. And there's so much that goes into it. It's a vast array of things that they don't understand. So when you walk into a boxing gym, you are not studying how to protect yourself. You are not studying self-defense or self-protection. You're just learning how to punch, ideally. You're not learning what you need to learn for that. You understand? And when you go to a lot of karate schools or martial arts schools, judo schools, or whatever, you're not learning a lot of that. So if you don't study, if you don't train in a self-protection context, if you just training doesn't give you that information. So I study a self-protection context. And I was law enforcement for 22 years of my life, longer than that, because I was military police as well. So I incorporate that into my training. A lot of people don't do that. Just because you run a school don't mean you're teaching people how to protect themselves. There's many people who bounced their whole life, who got locked up because they didn't understand self-protection, self-defense. They just knew how to fight or whatever. There's so much that goes into it.
Well, exactly. It gets to the point where it's its own separate thing, and and what folks don't seem to understand is that's not so much the lifetime of study. You can get that point across, and a program that is specifically designed for that. But for those in the back of the room that might have missed this part, context is everything. We did an episode about it. We talked about it. But I feel like for those in the back of the room, they typically miss that part when we say context. Now, I know like I said, I've said it before. You heard me say it in the last episode where I said you can get some of these benefits with the self-defense end of things, the physical side of things, as a side attribute for learning a karate system or any martial system. However, I agree 100% but that's not what those systems are designed to do. That's not what they were designed to teach you. The self-defense, self-protection, self-defense is its own separate thing. And again, and you 100% on that too as well. There are a lot of things that get overlooked. Civil liability, all of that stuff. And you got folks trying to market something, get paid, and stuff like that, and they're not qualified to teach it. They shouldn't be teaching it. They don't even know what the hell they're talking about half the damn time.
Qualified in the slightest bit. Not qualified in the slightest bit. They get somebody together, they get a group together, and they teach them an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of hitting somebody in a red man suit without teaching them about self-defense, self-protection, use of force, without teaching them about just
not being there,
anything.
Understanding transitional spaces. Yeah. I'm like how many times where I'm like, you're like, I'm like, why were you there? You know what I'm saying? What did you think it was safe to leave by yourself at this point in time? Or my favorite is, well, I should be able to. I used to do this thing where I said the land of perfect. In the land of perfect, any person should be able to do whatever the hell they want to do, dress however they want to dress, all those things. But we don't live in that world yet. I mean, I like for us to live in that world because that's some Star Trek shit right there. But but we ain't living in that world right now. So live accordingly. You know what I'm saying? Or act accordingly. Yeah, that's a better way of saying that. I don't know where that was going. Well, sir, we are officially at time. I'm going to thank my guest, Haskins Sensei, author of Insight 101, The Way of Big Power. We've done enough with him to the point where if you don't know how to find him or where he is or his YouTube channel or anything else, you're messing up. Get there. The brother has a plethora of knowledge, been doing a thing for a long time. I don't have to sell him. He sells himself by just what he does for a living. He's what we call a martial scientist, which is a martial artist that has taken the time out to really spend time studying and trying to understand the martial universe and being able to break it down and just better explain it. He's really good with the articulation. I ain't gonna lie, because I'll hold the candle to any of it. All right, so sir, thank you for being on the Martial Maze. You got anything for the folks at home?
Thank you for having me, and hey, I'm either here going to help open some eyes or piss people off. Either way, just think about it.
All right, and with that being said, I'm Israel Lopez Sensei, and you've been listening to The Martial Maze.